All right. Welcome, everybody. This is Clint Arthur, and on today's Celebrity Expert Spotlight, I am joined by Richard GEARHART. He's the CEO and founder of GEARHART Law. And Richard, why don't you introduce yourself and explain how you got to be such a top expert at IP and intellectual property law?
Well, first of all, it's great to be talking with you, Clint. It's always a pleasure to see you and interact with you. You've taught me so many wonderful things. So I just want to express my appreciation for that. I've been an intellectual property lawyer, if you can believe it, for 35 years, right? Which is why I have the white hair.
Oh, okay.
And I will say that there is practically nothing I haven't done in the world of intellectual property or business law, for that matter. So I have a wide range of experience, and I also have the perspective of an entrepreneur. GEARHART Law was an entrepreneurial venture, and we've been in business now for 16 years, and it's been going great. So my story is that I left undergraduate college, Knox College, with a degree in chemistry, and I worked for large corporations in chemical sales and inventory management, and it was all just really, really boring. If you can just imagine how these big companies, and you're just the small cog in a big wheel. At the time, this was back in the 80s, I was grateful to have a job, but it became pretty clear fairly soon that this was not going to be my passion. And I had always wanted to be an attorney. Ever since I was a kid, I watched episodes of Perry Mason, right? And he always impressed me. He would stand up in the courtroom and he would bring the witness to tears. And I just thought having that kind of power would just be an amazing thing to have. And so I ended up going to law school thinking I was going to be Perry Mason. It turns out that the law is a little different than in real life than what you see on TV. But I went to law school, Case Western Reserve. I graduated in 1988. I went to Switzerland. I was looking to have a different kind of career. I got accepted to the Graduate Institute of International Studies in Geneva, where I studied international law. And I ended up working for one of the premier law firms in the United States, Jones Day, Revis and Pogue. And because they had a Swiss office, and that's where I started my legal career. And I worked there for a couple of years, and I decided to come back to the United States because, mostly because of personal reasons. While I was there in Switzerland, my father, who had given me up for adoption, came to visit me, and it had a huge impact on me. And he had cancer. He had about 2 years to live. And so I wanted to spend some time with him before he passed away. So I came back to the United States, and I was able to spend time with him. So it was really an amazing time. Switzerland was an amazing place. I really enjoyed the time I had there. I was able to travel, lots of different places while I was in Europe. It was really kind of a dream, right? And so after that, I decided that I wanted to learn intellectual property law because I had a background as a chemist. So I had a technical background. I also had a legal background. And so intellectual property law was a place where you could do both. And I started working in a small law firm in Chicago. And after about 2 weeks, I realized that this was something I was good at. And I really enjoyed it. And I've never looked back since. It's always been, I've always enjoyed the practice. I like every aspect of it. You would think that it's a very narrow specialty, but really there's just a huge amount of variety. that you can experience working as an intellectual property lawyer. And after working at several large corporations, I eventually made my way to Novartis, where I headed up the intellectual property function for the whole United States. And this is a Fortune 50 company, billions and billions of dollars, where intellectual property is really important. It's really important in the pharmaceutical industry. And I had the honor of heading up that group, that function. I had a lot of intellectual property lawyers reporting to me. And I got involved in a lot of really interesting projects. It was amazing training professionally. And after I left there, I decided that I was done with corporate America. I wanted to do something entrepreneurial. And so GEARHART Law came into existence. And that was 16 years ago. And I've been going gangbusters ever since.
Fantastic. Now tell us about the time when you were most scared in your career as an intellectual property attorney.
Oh, obviously starting the practice was like, I was upstairs in my attic, literally with a computer and a phone. And I had to make this work. And I had no idea of what I was getting myself into. I look back at it today and I say, I was crazy. And if, I had a mortgage, I had kids, I had no idea how I was going to pay those bills. But somehow, some way, I found I have, I always had a knack for the legal piece, and I had a knack for attracting clients. And so one of the things that we did, this was back in 2006, when law firms didn't have websites. It's hard to believe that there was a time when law firms didn't have websites, but we launched a website and it was geared toward entrepreneurs. And the first day I got 4 calls because it reached the right audience. And just based on that, I was able to eventually build a fairly decent practice. And digital online marketing is still a huge part of how we attract clients. So it worked out well for us. Let's put it that way.
Fantastic. Obviously it has. And I'm sure a lot of people would be interested in finding out more about how you can help them with their intellectual property law needs. Where should they go to find out more?
Well, you can always visit us at GEARHARTlaw.com. That's www.gearhartlaw.com. You can find out more about me going to my personal celebrity website, which is richardgearhartesquire.com. And we always have time to talk about intellectual property and, startups in your business. So anyone who has any kind of interest or need should feel free to reach out to us.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Richard. My guest today has been Richard GEARHART, founder and chief rainmaker at GEARHART Law, intellectual property attorneys in the greater New York area. Thanks so much for joining me on the Celebrity Expert Spotlight.
Great to be here, Clint.